Hey everyone, Walter Crosby with Helix Sales Development, your host of Sales and Cigars. Today's episode is for visionaries, the business owner, the CEO who's trying to get out of the day-to-day of their business and wants to have that freedom to be a visionary, to be the idea person and work on their passion. So my guest is Greg Janelle, who's that EOS implementer, and his role is to give that visionary a way to get out of that seat that you want to get out of, to give you the pathway to do that. So go grab a cigar, grab a cocktail, strap in for another insightful episode of Sales and Cigars. So Greg, welcome to the program. I appreciate you taking some time out of your busy schedule.
Yeah, thanks, Walter. I'm glad to be here and to chit chat about what we have in store for here today.
Great. So let's tee up a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about your journey, your entrepreneurial journey, your career, and how you landed in being in taking this leap as in EOS and implementing EOS for companies. And I always make this stupid joke that, when we were 10-year-old boys, we didn't think we were going to be doing what we're doing today. So why don't we talk a little bit about how you got here, and then we'll dive into the EOS conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I started in the mortgage industry in 2003. In 2006, I became a loan officer because I seen what the craziness that was happening at that time. And, to be a loan officer, you're in sales, right? And I really saw that people were being taken advantage of and they were not being cared for properly. At that time, if you could fog a mirror and hold a business card, you could be a loan officer.
But that's the criteria for most sales jobs. Right? If you're able to move and say hello, you're going to be in sales. But I interrupted.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And so I just knew I could treat people better. I will never forget it. I was at a closing, and the loan officer met me at the client's house in Bath, Michigan, at 8:00 in the evening. And when the loan officer would meet me at the client's house, I knew that they were making bank. And this was during the subprime heyday. And I'm capitalist. I'm all for making money.
Sure.
Don't get me wrong. But there's making money and there's rape. And so he said, "How well do you describe the fees?" And I said, "Hey, I describe the fees. If they ask me, then I'm going to tell them where the fees are going to go to, but I'm not going to lament the fact that, you're really raking them over the coal." And I'll never forget it, Walter. The loan officer sitting across from me, the borrower is sitting on my right. He has two beautiful little girls in the background, and his beautiful wife comes up to him, and he's doing one of these jobs. And she puts her hand on his shoulder and she says, "Honey, what's wrong?" And he goes, "I know if I sign this, we're going to lose our house in 2 years. And if I don't, we're going to lose it in 6 months." And the loan officer just sat there and said, "Well, what are you going to do?" So they closed the loan, and I couldn't stomach being a part of that. And so that's why I became a loan officer. Journey went from there to cutting my teeth as a salesperson, learning how to build referral relationships, to then starting my company in 2016. And in 2019, and tell me if you've ever experienced some of this, or people that have had, I had really some frustrations about running the business. I had a lack of control. The business was running me. I wasn't running it. I was going in on a daily basis. I was putting out dumpster fires. And so I became a fireman, not a business owner. And so that was one thing. The next was, people. I was frustrated with my employees, right? My vendors, my customers, my partners. And they didn't seem to understand what I was trying to get through and communicate. And then the third thing was profit. It wasn't enough. And I mean, at the end of the day, what are we in business for, right? It's to make a good living, make a decent profit. And then the other thing is, Walter, I was really wanting to grow, and we were hitting the ceiling. It was just, no matter what we did to grow, nothing was working. And so what ended up happening is we ended up having kind of a flavor of the month type idea. And God forbid I listened to a book as a business owner. Right? We're going, hey guys, I got a new idea. And I started to create this organizational whiplash where I would turn my head this way, the whole organization would follow. And then the next month, we're on this other journey doing this other cockamamie idea. And so that led me to EOS. I was driving in my car and I literally looked up at the ceiling and I said, please God, send me someone to help me wrangle in this mess. And unbeknownst to me, later that day, I was talking to someone in business development in the mortgage field. And he said, hey, you know Mike? And I go, yeah, I know of Mike. And he goes, do me a favor. He's trying to help business owners. Would you mind taking his call? And so there I am, like a schmuck, having this guy call me because I'm trying to keep this relationship warm with this connector. And then he delivered what we call the Vision Traction Health conversation. And next thing I know, I'm in a 90-minute conversation with him, meeting, and he was showing me how to strengthen the 6 key components of EOS. And
so nice segue, Greg.
Yeah.
Nice segue, because that's where we wanted to go. So you were the entrepreneur. You were the guy that read the Pumpkin Plan one week, and then you read, like a scaling up type book, and then you read a book like Traction, right? So you're going in all these different directions.
Absolutely.
Your people are tired and getting, lost, and they don't have the patience. The people that were following Moses for 40 years in the desert. That old joke, hey, Mo, could I get a look at that map here? Because we've been wandering around for quite a while.
Absolutely.
So the six key components, in terms of EOS, and let's kind of describe EOS. I'll describe it the way I understand it. I'm not an implementer. I work with a bunch of clients who have, that use EOS to run their business. And I've learned it by baptism, by fire. But to me, it's a way of thinking about your business. It's a way of strategizing about your business, and it's a way of executing on the strategies in your business in a structure that isn't really a straitjacket, gives you some flexibility to navigate.
Sure.
But it is a structure to help you understand, do I have the right person in the right seat? Am I following my real purpose here? Am I following the vision that I put together originally? And if I'm not, should I change my direction or should I change my vision, right? It really forces you to look at things the right way. So, and I think the other thing I'll say, and then I'll stop talking so you can answer the question, but it's not something that people should enter into lightly and without some guidance, because we need some objectivity as an entrepreneur. No matter what kind of a conversation we have, we really need that objective person to come along and say, yeah, but this is what you said 6 months ago. So what's changed, right? Enforcing those harder conversations. So why don't you talk about the 6 key components and then tell me how wrong I am?
No, I feel like you're pretty spot on. EOS really, Gino Wickman, who wrote the book Traction, he didn't create any new theories. He just took all the really good theories. But what he did is that he compiled them into a really complete system with really simple but powerful tools that help you execute that. And so when we're talking about this business model in EOS, it shouldn't be taken lightly because you're changing the fundamental way you run your business, right? And so anytime that you do that, you should be taking that seriously. And one of the big things is making sure that you implement all of it. For instance, if I were to go on this computer and implement 2/3 of an operating system, this computer is not going to work that well, right?
Right.
And so if you go and pick and choose some bits and pieces out of EOS, it's not going to work as well as you would hope it would be. And so when we're talking about the 6 key components, I'll go through them just briefly. We're talking about the vision key component, the people key component, the data key component, issues, process, and traction. And so you had, brought up earlier that vision part, right? And so it's incumbent upon us, the business owner, to share our vision with our team and to share it on a regular basis. There's an old joke out there, right? You got to tell someone 7 times before they remember what you're telling them. And the joke is that it's an average. You got to tell guys 15 times and women once, right? Mm-hmm. But in all earnest, we have to hear this over and over again. And what it does is when we as a business owner share that vision on a regular basis, the team starts to internalize that and makes it their own. And if they don't, they're probably not right people, right? Because they're not on that same boat wanting to go the same place that you want to go. And
there's one component in there that I kind of want to hit now, that the book I wrote, we talk about sharing the vision and having the strategy and connecting that. And what I see often with companies that aren't running EOS is that the business owner will share their vision, will talk about it, put it up on the fucking wall so people can read it, right? But they don't help the individual employee understand what they can do in their role within their job function to help everybody realize that vision, right? And with EOS, that happens faster and easier. That they know as a shipping clerk or as an admin or as an engineer, that if we're trying to reach 10,000 new customers in the course of 10 years, what can I do to add to that list, right? Who do I know that can come in here and support that, right? They start to think differently because it's part of the operating system, where we're talking about it a lot, we're explaining it, we're giving people an opportunity to ask questions, and whether it's an L10 or just in a general conversation. So I think that's an important piece, that EOS companies do a much better job of connecting the dots for their employees from the vision to the role.
Right. And so the tool that we use for that is in the people key component, and it's right people, right seats. Jim Collins' book, Good to Great, he laid out the theory, but there's a tool that we use, which is what's called an accountability chart. And it's different than an organization, just an org chart. Yep. The difference is this: the accountability chart, the leadership team creates this accountability chart on where the team wants to go originally the first 6 to 12 months, right? And so what we do is we take all the people in the company, we put them in a closet. We then define the roles of each one of those seats, 5 roles in each one of those seats. So it's abundantly clear what that role is and what they're responsible for. And then we invite the guys back out of the team, back out of the closet, and we go, okay, who fits that seat? And so when we do that, they know, and then everyone in the organization knows that, Walter, you're the director of sales. So if there's something that needs to be, they know to go to you, right? They know to go to the visionary if there's a bigger picture, or the integrator. And so that's the part of the right seats. And that's bringing that vision, being able to articulate where we need to go, and then the role of how we're going to get there with those seats. And so it's truly important. And when we're talking about right seats, we also have to have the right people. And this is where the culture comes in. And if you've been in business any amount of time, you probably heard culture eats strategy for lunch every day of the week, right? And so we start to develop our core values and making sure everyone, and it's not actually developing, it's defining who we are at the core, and then making sure that our team fits those core values when we put them in that right seat. And so they start to then embody your vision and drive forward, is what we see on a regular basis.
It's the vision of that business owner, the visionary, right? The partner, whoever that sits in that role. That's what's driving everything. That's what's helping us discover the org chart. It's helping us figure out who the right people are. It's helping us figure out where the issues are, right? How do we get that traction? But it's all coming from that original vision. And the process actually helps flush that out. So you went through vision, you covered a little bit on people, data. We're looking at certain metrics that we can, what are the data points that in your business going to help you? What is the phrase? If you're sitting on a desert island and you only get one email to look at, and you get the stats from your scorecard that tells you if your business is going to make it another week. Is that kind of
yeah?
Right?
So that's exactly right. We use the scorecard, and we use 5 to 15 key KPIs that we can identify. So if we are on a desert island and the only communication we have is looking at those numbers, we know if we have to go back the next week or we can stay on vacation, right? Mm-hmm. And so when we're able to do that, we can then quickly identify any issues that are going on. But when the scorecard we use is we have 13 weeks of trailing data. And what that does is that tends to allow us to really see any issues, challenges, or opportunities that we can take advantage of from being able to track that data. And so that is one tool that we use in the data key component. And the other one is measurables. So in that accountability chart we were talking about earlier, eventually everyone in the organization will have at least 1 to 3 measurables that they're going to be responsible for on a weekly basis, all the way down through the organization. So we're always gaining traction. What gets inspected, right? We get results from that. And so we're always looking at these measurables, making sure that everyone is always rowing in the same direction with that data key component.
And we don't need 47. We can get by with 3 to 5 that really are pertinent for that particular role.
Absolutely. Less is more.
So, and the other 3 are issues, process, and traction. How can we cover those? There's a couple of things I want to get to here that I think are really going to help you and help the audience. So we got issues, process, and traction. How do we explain those quickly?
Yeah. So issues is basically this. How do we set up issues on a weekly basis? How do we set them up, knock them down, and make them go away forever? And so there's a tool we call IDSing, Identify, Discuss, and Solve. And so we end up teaching that and creating an issues list. Process is exactly what it sounds like. Documenting our processes, right? But what we do is we take a 20/80 approach for entrepreneurs where we document 20% of the steps that get us 80% of the way there, because we have the right people in place that can take it all the way home. And so otherwise you have an SOP manual that's 705 pages long.
Right.
That no one's, the only thing you're doing is this, you're just lifting it up and blowing dust off it, right? Occasionally.
So I was in an onboarding meeting this morning, sort of a kickoff to onboarding. And the visionary of the company was telling the new employee that you're going to experience something you've never experienced before, right? We're going to trust you to do your job after we get you through this process within, the onboarding piece. You're going to be trusted to just go handle things and raise your hand. We expect you to make some mistakes, but the amount of trust that we bestow upon our people is scary, right? Not just for the visionary, but for the individual. We want them to really take that responsibility and run with it, and give them the license to be able to navigate and use their skills and their tools and their brain. And I think that's one of the pieces of EOS that I like, is that freedom for individuals to, play the notes that they need to play in the order that they need to play them, but use your instrument, use your authenticity to be who you are, and go do it. So I think that's an important piece, that we give that everybody the license to be able to navigate and be successful being themselves. That's one of the pieces I really love about EOS. So traction, how would you describe traction?
Well, I want to talk about that real quick, because I think it's so important. Okay. What we see is with companies that truly follow their core values, it gives the rest of the team license to make decisions based on those core values. So they're not always coming up to management saying, can I do this or can I do this? How important is that for salespeople in the field to be able to make real-time decisions based on those guardrails, knowing that if this follows this core value and it does not violate any other core values, I know I can get this done, even though it might not be the norm, right? It gives such confidence. So, but yeah, that's part of the process. In regard to traction, what we do is we have rocks and meeting pulse. And rocks are simply 90-day priorities, 3 to 7, less is more, that the leadership team and then people in their departments end up taking to get things done that would typically take more than 7 to 14 days. So special projects, right? Where we're growing, we're still getting our job done. But if we don't make these a priority, they'll never get done. We as business owners get on this hamster wheel of just running on a regular basis, never being able to get off the wheel to actually grow the business. And so this is a mechanism to make sure that we're always growing the business, every 90 days, reviewing what we were able to accomplish. We measure backwards so we can see our progress, and set a new set of rocks every 90 days to continue growing. And then the meeting pulse is the level 10 meeting, which is a very, you start on time, you end on time. It's an agenda that we rate the meeting every meeting, and we want to get an 8 or better. Hopefully we're having a level 10 meeting, 10 being the best. So it's the highly effective way of running a meeting. And I will tell you, my implementer told me this when he was delivering our first session, and I rolled my eyes, went, okay, whatever. And he goes, you'll never want to have another meeting in an organization unless it's a level 10. I go, all right, you're in love with this stuff. I get it. You drink the Kool-Aid. He was right. He was right, because it's just a way to smoke out issues and solve them in real time and gain traction on a weekly basis.
It is. And you have to be able to have somebody that's willing to call you out, So the first L10 I was in, it was a leadership L10, and I was like an outsider, not part of the company. And they were, we were going through in the second meeting. They were like, we're IDSing this thing first. It was me, and they're like, you're not being transparent, open, and honest.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, you're right. I'm not. Well, that's what you're supposed to do in here. I'm like, well, how was I supposed to know that, right? So we had that whole conversation, got it all on the table. Like, so before I'm done, like, are you sure you want me to be open and honest about everything? Because you're not going to like all the answers I give you. And they're like, that's what we're looking for. Okay. And it was really liberating to be able to share things and be heard. And it wasn't always agreement, but it was good to get it off your chest rather than kind of hold it. So I would agree that those L10s are a way to structure things. So, hey, thanks for being part of the Sales and Cigar community. I wanted to share that I wrote a book, The 7 Critical Mistakes CEOs Make with Their Sales Organization. The CEOs who've read it tell me I cut to the chase quickly, get to the point, explain exactly what they're experiencing, why they're experiencing it, and how to fix it. So if you want a free copy, go check out the link in the show notes. Now let's get back to the interview. Let's talk about the visionary and them being in the right spot, getting out of their own way, getting out of a seat, or just being able to allow the integrator and the other people to do their job. And that's kind of where I want to land this, is to because there's a lot of visionaries that listen to this. And there are a few integrators that do, and they're frustrated and the visionary is frustrated. So how do we go about making sure that they can just, hey, here's an idea. Now, make sure we understand it. Everybody's with me, and then get out of the way and let other people go do the work.
Yeah. This is coming from a crazy visionary, by the way. I am all gas, no brakes 100% of the time. And so, just take that from this perspective. When you can, let me put it this way. I use my integrator to filter my ideas. And I use my leadership team to help filter my ideas, because I got 1,000 of them on a regular basis, right? I'm always brainstorming, always coming up with things. And so I actually would say to them, when I was running my company as a visionary, I would go, hey, I got 990, or I have 1,000 ideas and 995 of them are going to be crap. And if you let me implement any one of these, shame on you. Right? Mm-hmm. If you knew it was crap, shame on you. And so the integrator is meant to have a really good relationship with the visionary, because the integrator carries out the vision of the visionary, so the visionary can go and work on bigger ideas, bigger relationships, maybe bigger strategies, bigger vendor partners, right? Whatever it is that visionary is really, really good at, that's why they're there. They're setting the roadmap for where the organization needs to go. They don't have to drive the car. Let the integrator drive the car.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah. And when you do that, what happens is that you're not giving up control. You still have regular meetings with your integrator as well, right? You still have a same page meeting, but you don't have to do all the work and make sure that everyone else is doing their job. That's the integrator's role. Go and be a visionary. Go create. That's what visionaries are great at doing. They create positions, they create jobs, they create products, they create different services. Go do that and then filter it through your team, because sometimes it's garbage, but man, there's a lot of good nuggets in there too. And so,
yeah, so I've witnessed this from some visionaries who are really good at coming up with ideas, throwing 3 or 4 things out, seeing what sticks, walking away, coming back later and like, where are we at with these? And they're getting constant input from their integrator and from their team. And then I've seen visionaries who struggle to let go because they're so used to having to be the person that had the idea, had the requirement to go make it happen, and then figure out why it didn't work, right? So that's a tough thing to do when you start the company yourself and you don't have a partner and you're the visionary. So what would be your advice for that visionary that's like, I need help, to go be just a visionary and have somebody else when they don't have a built-in integrator? What do you suggest for that person?
So I'm going to go a little bit deeper here. A lot of us visionaries, we have our self-identity wrapped up into this position, right? We have a piece of us wrapped up into the business. And to let go of that is it's like handing your baby over to a babysitter that you're not sure about, right? And so,
which you shouldn't do.
You shouldn't do, right? But that's why that integrator relationship is so important. If you don't have an integrator that is going to execute that vision with you, okay, and on your behalf at the leadership team level, you have to put it on the issues list, and it has to be a rock. You need to find an integrator that's going to take your vision and really drive it forward. So
as an implementer, as somebody that helps them put the system in place, make it efficient, make it effective, run the quarterlies, if they come to you, it's like, do you have an integrator? Do we need to hire somebody full time? Do we have fractional people? I mean, what would be a progression of ideas for them to think about and try? Maybe they can't afford to go hire a COO that is a perfect integrator. So what's an intermediary step?
Yeah, if you don't have that person in your company at this moment, there are fractionals out there that have run EOS. I will caution you that they are there to integrate and not implement. They're two different things, right? They're executing your vision.
It's two different roles.
It
roles. Really is. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so a lot of people, they see if they can get a 2-for-1. Well, you've integrated somewhere else. Can you help implement this? And then you're spending actually more money on that person to get them to implement throughout the company as opposed to actually driving your vision. So there are steps. You can find it. There's plenty of really good fractional integrators where you can buy a day or two a week at a time that maybe you can't afford, and then they get you up to that point. Or there's someone in your organization, and then perhaps in your either if you have time, which is not ideal, and you're mentoring someone in that position and they GWC it, they get it, want it, and have the capacity to do it, you can do that. Or you're out just looking for full time. But there is I can't say the word now.
Yeah, intermediary. I keep saying it incorrectly myself, but we know that in between step.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So,
but it's really a critical thing. If you're the entrepreneur, you're the business owner, and you don't have a partner, and you don't have somebody on the team that's been with you that you know, like, and trust to that point, you need to maybe develop that person internally or look outside to bring in. And your implementer isn't necessarily the right person, probably isn't the right person because it's a completely different role. And it's more than understanding EOS. It's more about getting shit done in the organization.
Spot on. Because in integrator, they hopefully they know your business, or they have leadership skills to make sure that the leadership team is executing on theirs, right? In their specific roles. In implementer, we could deal with manufacturers, service industry, sales, right? Widgets. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. And a lot of times it's better that we don't, because we're helping you get to a pure implementation of EOS where the integrator is actually in the day-to-day stuff with you. And so, but what's
they got
nice,
their sleeves rolled up, and every day they're in the muck and working through it.
And our job is to bring the team out and create that team health and to coach, facilitate, and teach EOS. And so when we're implementing, we're working with the leadership team and we're bringing these issues out, right? We're making sure, like them talking to you about being open and honest. Hey, are we getting to the root of the problem? How can we get to the root of the problem if we're not being open and honest? And so we're looking at the team as we're talking and we're pulling these things out. 95% of the time, Walter, the answer's in the room.
Yeah.
But people are afraid to say it.
Yeah.
And so we're drawing it out.
That's a really, really solid point, because that's where the transparency and open and honest come in to those quarterly meetings. And I've seen those where there's yelling back and forth in a productive fashion, where there's, some animosity, but at the end of that meeting, everybody shakes hands and goes to dinner, and it's out on the table and we've moved on. And that implementer has to be able to know when to, allow that to go and when to pull the reins back in, right? And that's usually around personal, right? If we're staying focused on the business and the task and the strategy and the tactics, and we're not calling somebody out by, names and things, keep it professional. I've seen that happen, and it's amazing what happens with a team when that transparency really comes there and things flush it out. And sometimes it's the person that's sitting over in the side that doesn't have anything to do with, like, you know what, you guys are both right and you're both wrong. And here's what I mean. And it's like, oh yeah, a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And we're back on track. That's got to be a satisfying piece for you as when you facilitate something like that. It's
incredible when you can get a meeting of the minds, and a lot of times maybe it's just miscommunication. Maybe we're talking about the same thing in the same way, but we're using different vernacular to get there, right? And so when we can get our department leaders to take their silo hats off, right, and put team company hat on, and we're looking at the problem 100% at the company level. But I'll tell you, Walter, some of those, the best sessions are the ones that there's a lot of energy. There's a lot of passion there. I've always told my kids, and take this for what it is, my wife and I don't really argue, but if you ever see parents just become complacent, it's dead. The marriage is dead, right? There's no passion there.
Yep.
So when you have a team that's passionate and they're challenging each other and they're going, I don't think that's the way it needs to be, and here's why. But you can state that from purely not a personal standpoint, but what's better for the company. That's magic. When we get to that point, I'm getting goosebumps even thinking about it right now, because that's where the good stuff comes from.
Awesome. So what I'd like to kind of wrap this is, what you do, you just described what you do in that room, right? Whether it's in your room or in their conference room or some third party location where there's all of this energy going back and forth. Easier to do when you're face to face. So you're describe for that visionary who's listening right now, or that business owner is listening right now, that, I need to find somebody that can help me do that, what Greg just described. How do they get a hold of you? We're going to have your contact info in the show notes, but is there somebody in particular that you really enjoy working with, or you drive that extra passion? Your ideal persona, who is that?
Yeah. So I will take a smaller company, because I know what it's like to be a smaller company growing. So ideally 7 to 250 employees, privately owned. But the people I will drive for or go out of town for, it's the teams that give a shit. the teams that really want to get better. If they're wishy-washy about it, if you have to drag them in, you got to drag them through it. I want teams, and I love working with teams that give a shit. They say, can we get 1% better here, 2% better there? We want to grow. How do we get to that point? How can we be open and honest with each other to get to that point? Those are the teams that we're looking for.
And sometimes that's lurking below the surface, right? And they just need that kick in the pants, or they need the hand extended to say it's okay to say what you're thinking, because they didn't believe that before. And that's where you can come in and help those business owners. Like, you got people who care, people that are competent, but there's just something missing. Maybe they call Greg and say, hey, can you help me get everything I can get out of these folks? Because it's sometimes it's that fear of what might happen if they're saying, boss, that's a stupid idea. Right. And that's what we want to hear sometimes. Right. When I had a sign shop years ago, and I would throw out an idea that I knew was stupid. Right. And I throw it out at the I didn't have an L10, but I would have like sort of this monthly management meeting. I'd throw out an idea and it was stupid. And they were like, yeah, okay, if that's what you want to do. And I'm like, no, it's not what I want to do. It's a stupid idea. And you guys should have told me it's a stupid idea. Well, you're going to be happy if we're telling you it's stupid? Or you're stupid? I'm like, no, I'm not stupid. But if the idea is stupid, you get to say, stupid idea, Walter. Please, that's dumb. Here's why, right? There's a delineation between an idea being dumb and the individual being dumb, right? Or being impractical, or whatever the right word is. So I think that's something that you can bring to the table. So we'll have your website, we'll have your LinkedIn in there. Is there another way? Is there a preference for them to reach out to you?
They can either reach out to me via my phone or email is fine. That doesn't matter, either one. Are you going to have the phone number associated?
I will have your phone number if you want it there.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to talk to all those visionaries are going.
It'll be published to the world, Greg. So
go for it.
And you're in West Michigan, so you can cover Michigan, Northern Indiana, Northern Illinois, like Guam. Yeah. Where do you draw the line?
Yeah. So basically, I am always back and forth between Chicago and Detroit, and as far north as Lansing, Grand Rapids, and as south as I'd go down to Indianapolis if there's a good team.
So there's quite a few. There's quite a few metropolitan areas in that. Just between Chicago, Detroit, you got Battle Creek, you got Kalamazoo, you got Grand Rapids. Grand Rapids is a fertile ground. Lansing, another fertile ground. So I think if you're that in that visionary role, you need a little help, you need some guidance. Greg will take a call, walk you through. He'll be honest with you, because one of the things that I think is important for EOS is like to tell people what it is and what it isn't, and what they need to be prepared for, because it's some work to get it going. It's not a walk on the beach. It's not hard, but you have to be consistent and put it in place and work through all the ups and downs to it. Am I wrong there?
You're absolutely correct. They're really simple tools. But there's work to be done. If you're willing to do the work, what'll happen is you're going to find that you have a lot more time. A lot of business owners, we get stuck on this treadmill and they go, I don't know when I can get off, if I can get off. And I tell people this, I'm not a big NASCAR fan, but I know those guys make 4 left turns going 200 miles an hour as fast as possible. And each one of them need to pit. They need to stop and put new tires on and put fuel in to go faster. And so we have to stop, examine in order for us to go faster.
And that's a great way to look at it. And we do need to get off that hamster wheel, like you said before, and really take a look at working on the business rather than in it, to use Michael Gerber term. And I think, EOS gives us that opportunity. So any last parting thoughts before we jump off?
Visionaries, you're not alone. A lot of us that we were on the CEO island. I know I felt it. There's stuff that we just feel like we can't talk about it with our teams. But if you start to develop that trusted team that you can talk about real hard issues, you're not going to be doing this alone, and there's going to be more hands to make things easier.
Awesome. Thanks, Greg. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Walter. It's been a pleasure.
I love sharing secrets when I figure them out. That's why I created this program called Sales Hiring Secrets. Early in my sales management career, I was terrible at hiring salespeople. They failed more often than not. Then I discovered the secret that you can't hire salespeople the same way you hire everyone else. That's why everyone fails. In Sales Hiring Secrets, I'm going to teach you all of the secrets to understanding what you really need your salesperson to do, how to attract an ideal candidate with a unique job posting. I'll teach you how to save time and money by only interviewing candidates that are a good fit. I'll share the secrets to an interviewing process that ensures success. And the one big secret that everybody gets wrong is how to onboard a good salesperson so they ramp up quickly and stick around. I'm doing the Sales Hiring Secrets program on a monthly basis. You can click the link below to figure out when the next Sales Hiring Secrets program is scheduled, and you can sign up. Click the link below, and you get all the details. And it's designed for you to bring your entire team so you can get everybody up to speed quickly. Thanks. Look forward to seeing you on the other side.